Vincent Harlow never considered himself a particularly merciful man, but he'd spent the better part of 15 years proving himself to be a decent father and, for the past decade, a committed husband. At 52, he'd built a reputation in Boston's real estate development world as someone you didn't cross. His business rivals had learned it the hard way. Vincent didn't just win. He obliterated opponents. But he kept that ruthlessness confined to his professional life, believing his home was sacred. Until now, the call from his stepdaughter, Allison, had come unexpectedly 3 weeks ago. She'd been attending Brown University, set to graduate next spring, but suddenly needed a place to stay. Something about her housing falling through, though the details seemed suspiciously vague. Vincent's second wife, Melanie, had immediately suggested Allison stay with them in their Beacon Hill townhouse until she sorted things out. Vincent studied his stepdaughter across the dining table, noticing how she pushed the barely touched salmon around her plate. Allison had always been slim, but now her collarbones protruded prominently and dark circles shadowed her eyes. She'd been this way since arriving, picking at her food, excusing herself early, spending hours alone in her room. "Not hungry again, kiddo?" Vincent asked, breaking the silence. Allison glanced up, her eyes darting nervously between Vincent and her mother. "Dad, I'm sorry. I just don't feel hungry," she replied. Vincent noted the way Melanie stiffened slightly at Allison calling him Dad, though he'd been in her life since she was 8. He'd legally adopted her when he married Melanie, despite her biological father still being somewhat in the picture. That man, Peter Calloway, had been a mediocre presence in Allison's life at best. "You've barely eaten all week," Melanie said, her voice carrying an edge that Vincent couldn't quite place. "Maybe we should take you to see Dr. Wagner." "I'm fine, Mom. Just stressed about school," Allison mumbled, though she hadn't mentioned returning to classes once since arriving. Vincent observed his wife carefully. Melanie Harlow was still strikingly beautiful at 44, with her dark copper hair and green eyes. They'd met when Vincent hired her interior design firm for one of his development projects. She'd been divorced for 2 years, struggling to maintain her business while raising Allison alone. Vincent had been captivated by her resilience, her ambition. Their courtship had been swift, perhaps too swift, a thought that occasionally troubled him in recent months. "I actually have a dinner meeting tomorrow night with Theodore Mills," Melanie announced, changing the subject. "He's interested in having me redesign their Nantucket summer home." Vincent nodded. The Mills family was old money and well-connected. Landing their project would be significant for Melanie's business. "That's great, sweetheart. I'll hold down the fort here. It might run late," Melanie added casually. "The ferry schedule back is limited, so I might need to stay overnight." Vincent noticed Allison's knuckles whitening around her fork, but thought nothing of it. "No problem. Allison and I can have a movie night, right, kiddo?" Allison's smile seemed forced. "Sure, Dad." Later that evening, as Vincent worked in his home office, he pulled up the security app on his tablet, a habit he developed over years of being security conscious. He cycled through the cameras around their home, pausing when he spotted Allison standing in the hallway outside her mother's studio, her ear pressed against the door. Her body language screamed tension. Vincent's finger hovered over the audio button, then pulled back. Whatever was happening, eavesdropping through security cameras felt like a violation of trust. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong in his household. He made a mental note to check the logs of Melanie's business trips over the past 6 months. The frequency had increased, but he'd been too consumed with his latest development project to pay close attention. Vincent had never been the jealous type. He trusted his wife implicitly, but trust, as he often told his business associates, should always be verified. The following evening, with Melanie gone to Nantucket, Vincent ordered pizza, Allison's favorite from college days, but she only managed 2 small bites before setting it aside. "Allison," Vincent said carefully, "what's really going on? And don't tell me it's just stress. You've never been this way before. Allison stared at her plate, a battle clearly raging behind her eyes. I can't. You can tell me anything, Vincent assured her. Did something happen at school? Is someone bothering you? Allison's laugh was hollow. I wish it were that simple. Vincent muted the television and turned to face her fully. I'm not just your stepfather, Allison. I'm your dad in every way that matters. Whatever it is, we'll handle it together. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't want to hurt you. A cold weight settled in Vincent's stomach. Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies destroy. Always better to rip the bandage off quickly. Allison nodded and wiped her eyes. I didn't drop out of school. I was doing great, actually. Dean's List last semester. Vincent's brow furrowed. Then why? I came home early one weekend to surprise Mom for her birthday in March, Allison continued, her voice barely above a whisper. You were in Chicago for that development deal. Vincent remembered. The Lincoln Park luxury apartments, a $50 million project. She wasn't at the apartment in Providence. I waited hours, thinking she was at a client meeting. Allison's voice cracked. When she finally showed up the next morning, she wasn't alone. Vincent felt his body go very still, the kind of stillness that preceded his most calculated business maneuvers. Who was with her? Peter, Allison whispered. My biological father. The name hit Vincent like a physical blow. Peter Calloway had been largely absent from Allison's life, appearing only occasionally for birthdays or graduations. He'd been cordial enough with Vincent over the years, though they rarely interacted. Vincent had even felt sorry for the man, believing he'd lost a wonderful family through his own negligence. How long? Vincent asked, his voice unnaturally controlled. I don't know exactly, but from what I overheard them saying, it's been going on for at least 2 years. Allison wiped fresh tears away. They have an apartment near campus. That's why Mom insisted on keeping the Providence apartment even after I moved into dorms. She said it was so she could visit me easily. Vincent nodded mechanically, pieces falling into place. The frequent overnight trips to Rhode Island. The calls that Melanie took in private. The unexplained weekends away. After I confronted them, Peter started showing up more, trying to buy my silence with gifts, offering to help me understand adult relationships. She nearly spat the words. Mom begged me not to tell you. Said they were trying to figure things out. Then they started pressuring me to move in with them permanently. And that's why you came here, Vincent said, understanding dawning. You ran. Allison nodded miserably. I couldn't stand being part of their lie anymore. But I didn't know how to tell you. Every time I tried, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how much you've done for me, for us. Vincent's mind was calculating rapidly, connections forming, a timeline establishing itself. The pieces of betrayal were coming together into a clear picture. Have they been stealing from me? He asked abruptly. Allison looked startled. What? No, not that I know of. Vincent smiled grimly. Financial theft would have been simpler than this emotional treachery. It's not your fault, Allison. None of this is. There's more, she said, her voice dropping even lower. I found messages on Mom's phone. They're planning something. Peter keeps talking about how once they finish the job, they'll be free. Vincent felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. What do you think that means? I don't know. But Allison hesitated. 2 weeks ago, I got really sick after dinner. Just me, not Mom. And she seemed weirdly calm about it, like she was expecting it. Vincent recalled that night. He'd been working late. Melanie had texted that Allison had a stomach bug, and she was taking care of her. Did you see a doctor? Allison shook her head. Mom said it wasn't necessary. But Dad, it felt different than food poisoning. I found a bottle of something in her purse afterward. The label was in another language, but when I looked it up, she swallowed hard, her eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. It was some kind of toxic plant extract. Vincent's blood went cold as pieces clicked into a terrible place. Dad, I'm sorry. Her voice trembled. The moment I heard Peter tell Mom on the phone last night that they should increase the dose next time, I knew I had to tell you. I think they're trying to. She couldn't finish the sentence. Vincent reached for his phone. His voice was deadly calm when he spoke. Allison, I need you to tell me exactly what you saw and heard. I'm calling the police. As he dialed, Vincent's mind was already racing ahead. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. This was attempted murder, and Vincent Harlow had never been a man who forgave betrayal. The police officers took detailed statements from both Vincent and Allison. Detective Laura Winters, a severe-looking woman with sharp eyes, led the investigation. Vincent had provided the security footage from his home. The strange bottles Allison had managed to photograph and access to Melanie's home office and personal items. Sir, these are serious accusations, Detective Winters said, watching as her colleagues cataloged items from Melanie's desk drawers. Attempted poisoning isn't something we take lightly. Neither do I, Vincent replied coldly. Check her browser history. Look for unusual purchases, especially from overseas pharmacies. Vincent had spent the past 3 hours in a state of cold fury. His mind was clearer than it had been in years. He'd already contacted his attorney, Benjamin Wolfe, who was on his way over. He'd also called his personal physician, requesting immediate toxicology screenings for both himself and Allison. There's something else you should see, Vincent told the detective, leading her to his home office. He pulled up the security footage from the past month on his computer. I've been experiencing unusual symptoms myself. Headaches, dizziness, memory issues. I attributed it to stress from work. He pulled up footage from 3 nights earlier. Melanie in the kitchen, carefully adding something from a small vial into a decanter of whiskey that only Vincent drank. Detective Winters' expression hardened. We'll need to take that decanter as evidence. Already bagged in the kitchen, Vincent said. I've been building real estate developments for 25 years, Detective. I know the importance of preserving evidence. A young officer appeared at the door. Detective, we found these in a hidden compartment in the woman's desk. He held up a plastic evidence bag containing several vials with foreign labels and a notebook filled with dates and dosages. Vincent recognized his own name next to several entries. Detective Winters nodded grimly. Mr. Harlow, we have enough to bring your wife in for questioning. Do you know where she is now? Supposedly at a client meeting in Nantucket, Vincent said, but I doubt that's true. He pulled out his phone and opened a tracking app. I have location tracking on our family phones for safety purposes. She's actually at the Providence apartment. He showed the detective the address. We'll coordinate with Providence PD to locate her, Detective Winters said, already reaching for her radio. Vincent turned to Allison, who sat pale and shaken on the couch. I need you to go to the hospital with Officer Reynolds here. They need to run tests. Make sure whatever they've been giving you is out of your system. Allison nodded weakly. What about you? I'll be right behind you, Vincent promised. I just need a moment with my attorney first. Once Allison had departed with the officer, Benjamin Wolfe arrived. A shark in an expensive suit who had represented Vincent for over 15 years. This is beyond divorce territory, Ben, Vincent said quietly as they stood in his study. This is attempted murder. Benjamin's normally impassive face showed genuine shock. The evidence is solid. Rock solid. And there's more. Vincent pulled out his tablet and showed his attorney some financial records he'd been reviewing. Melanie's design business has been struggling for years. I've been subsidizing it, but there have been large transfers from her business account to an offshore account I can't trace yet. Benjamin studied the numbers. Could be preparation for an exit or payment for poison. Vincent said flatly, either way, I want everything ready. Divorce papers, financial isolation, security revoked. I want her and Peter Calloway destroyed. Legally, financially, and reputation only. Benjamin nodded, making notes. What about Allison? She's 21, legally an adult, but I'll make sure she's protected. Set up a trust for her that neither Melanie nor Peter can touch. Vincent's voice grew icier. And Ben, this is just the beginning. I don't just want justice. I want them to regret ever contemplating harming me or Allison. His phone buzzed with a text from Detective Winters. Providence PD has your wife and Peter Calloway in custody, both being transported to Boston for questioning. Vincent felt something dark and satisfied unfurl within him. It seems my wife and her lover have been arrested, he told Benjamin. Let's make sure they never see the outside of a prison again. But even as he spoke, Vincent knew that criminal justice would only be the first chapter in his vengeance. He had been betrayed in the worst possible way. Not just marital infidelity, but a calculated plan to murder him for his wealth, while potentially harming Allison in the process. And Vincent Harlow had never been a man who forgave betrayal, not in business, and certainly not in matters of life and death. The white fluorescent lights of the hospital room cast harsh shadows across Allison's face as Vincent sat beside her bed. The toxicology results had confirmed their worst fears. Both of them had elevated levels of thallium in their systems, a nearly untraceable poison that caused symptoms easily mistaken for other illnesses. With proper treatment, you'll both make a full recovery, Dr. Patel assured them. You caught it early enough. Vincent nodded, his expression betraying nothing of the rage boiling beneath his composed exterior. Thank you, Doctor. Once they were alone, Allison reached for Vincent's hand. I should have told you sooner. You told me in time, Vincent replied, squeezing her hand gently. That's what matters. His phone buzzed with a text from Benjamin. Arraignment tomorrow. Bail hearing to follow. DA is pushing for no bail given flight risk and severity of charges. Vincent had spent the past 72 hours methodically dismantling Melanie's life. Her access to their joint accounts was suspended, credit cards canceled, the locks on all properties changed, and her personal items packed and stored in a secure facility. He'd moved with the same cold efficiency that had made him a formidable force in business. Detective Winters entered the room, her expression grim, but satisfied. Mr. Harlow, we found additional evidence at the Providence apartment. A detailed journal documenting the poisoning regimen, research on your will and life insurance policies, and communications with a third party about obtaining the substances. A third party? Vincent asked, his attention sharpening. A chemist named Leo Duval, she replied. We've taken him into custody as well. He's already talking, trying to cut a deal. Vincent nodded. And their statements. Calloway broke first, Winters said with a thin smile. Tried to claim your wife was the mastermind, that he was manipulated. Your wife is maintaining her innocence, claims the substances were natural supplements she was giving you for your health. Vincent almost admired her audacity. Almost. The district attorney wants to meet with both of you tomorrow. Winters continued. This is shaping up to be one of the most clear-cut attempted murder cases I've seen in 20 years on the force. After the detective left, Vincent turned to Allison. I want you to stay with my sister in Vermont while this plays out. Susan will take good care of you. I want to testify, Allison said firmly. I need to. Vincent studied his stepdaughter. No, his daughter in every way that mattered. The past week had aged her, but there was a new strength in her eyes. All right, he conceded. But afterward, I think some time away would be good for you. Perhaps that study abroad program in Italy you were considering. Allison nodded slowly. What will you do? Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. Justice is just the beginning, Allison. Your mother and Peter didn't just betray me. They betrayed you. They were willing to harm you as collateral damage. His voice hardened. I don't forgive that. I never will. The preliminary hearing was a media circus. Vincent sat stoically as the prosecution laid out the evidence. The poison found in his system, the documented plot, the financial transfers to purchase the thallium, and Allison's testimony about overhearing their plans all painted a chilling, undeniable picture of their intentions. Melanie and Peter were denied bail, deemed flight risks and dangers to the community. Outside the courthouse, Reporters shouted questions at Vincent. "Mr. Harlow, do you believe your wife intended to kill you? Will you be seeking the maximum penalty? How does it feel to be betrayed by both your wife and your stepdaughter's father?" Vincent stopped and faced the cameras, his expression calm and controlled. "I trusted two people who conspired to murder me and endangered my daughter. I believe in our justice system, but make no mistake." His eyes turned cold. "This betrayal will be answered in full. I won't be taking questions." That evening, alone in his study, Vincent reviewed the files Benjamin had compiled. Melanie's business had been failing for years, despite Vincent's financial support. Peter Calloway had a mountain of gambling debts. Together, they stood to gain over $30 million from Vincent's death through life insurance and his will, which he'd now changed to exclude Melanie entirely. But something still bothered him: the timing. Why now, after 10 years of marriage? Vincent dug deeper into Peter's financial records, following a hunch. The breakthrough came at 2 a.m. Peter had taken out a massive loan from a notorious loan shark named Raymond Vegas 6 months ago, with a deadline for repayment that was rapidly approaching. Vincent leaned back in his chair, the pieces falling into place. They weren't just planning to kill him for his money. They were doing it on a deadline. His phone rang. "Detective Winters. Mr. Harlow, sorry for the late call, but you need to know this. We found evidence that suggests your wife and Calloway were planning to frame Allison for your death if their poisoning plan failed." Vincent's hand tightened around the phone. "Explain." "They'd been planting evidence. Her fingerprints on the poison bottles, fake journal entries and handwriting similar to hers, even a falsified psychological evaluation suggesting she had homicidal tendencies toward you." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees as Vincent processed this information. "Thank you, Detective. This changes things." After hanging up, Vincent sat motionless for several minutes. Then he reached for his phone again and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Frank, it's Vincent Harlow. I need your services again." "Yes, it's personal this time. Very personal." Frank Donovan had been Vincent's fixer for difficult business situations in the early days, back when Vincent was climbing his way up through Boston's cutthroat real estate world. He'd left those methods behind years ago, or so he'd thought. But this was different. This wasn't business. This was family. As he hung up, Vincent opened his laptop and created a new folder labeled Reciprocity. Inside, he began mapping out a plan that went far beyond what the justice system could provide. The legal prosecution was just the public face of his revenge. The real retribution would happen in the shadows, where the full price of betrayal would finally be paid. The architect of vengeance. Frank Donovan hadn't changed much in the 8 years since Vincent had last employed his services, still built like a boulder with a grainy crew cut and eyes that revealed nothing. He sat across from Vincent in a private room at an unmarked office building Vincent owned in South Boston. "You're looking at a lot of years for both of them," Frank said, reviewing the case files. "Attempted murder. Conspiracy. 20 years minimum. Possibly life. So, why am I here?" Vincent slid a folder across the table. "Prison is insufficient. I want total destruction." Frank opened the folder, his eyebrows rising slightly as he reviewed the documents. "This is comprehensive. I've spent the past week planning," Vincent replied. "The legal proceedings will handle their freedom. I want you to handle everything else." The folder contained detailed information about Raymond Vegas, the loan shark Peter owed money to, the offshore accounts where Melanie had been transferring funds, and information about associates and family members who might be helping them. "Phase 1 is already underway," Vincent continued. "I've had my financial team trace and freeze every asset connected to either of them. But I need someone with your specific talents to handle the less conventional aspects." Frank nodded slowly. "You want me to make sure this Vegas character comes collecting from Calloway, even in prison." "I want Calloway to understand that prison won't protect him from his debts," Vincent confirmed. "As for Melanie," his voice hardened, "I want her design career destroyed. Every client, Every contact, every professional relationship poisoned. When she eventually gets out, I want her name to be toxic in the industry." "That's doable," Frank said. "What about their families?" Vincent shook his head. "I'm not that man. Their families are innocent. This is about those who betrayed me directly." Frank studied Vincent with newfound respect. Even in his rage, Vincent maintained certain boundaries. "There's one more thing," Vincent added, pulling out another file. "This chemist, Leo Duval, the one who supplied the poison, the DA's offering him a deal in exchange for testimony." "You want him silenced?" Frank asked cautiously. "I want him to refuse the deal," Vincent corrected. "Find leverage. Make him serve the full sentence alongside them." Frank nodded, already formulating a plan. "Consider it done." Over the next several weeks, Vincent maintained his public persona as the stoic victim, cooperating fully with prosecutors while privately orchestrating his deeper revenge. He hired private investigators to dig into Melanie and Peter's past, finding patterns of deceit that stretched back years. The most shocking discovery came from Melanie's emails. Allison wasn't her first child. She'd had a son with another man before Peter, a child she'd given up for adoption and never mentioned to Vincent. Further investigation revealed she'd been in contact with this now adult son, sending him money from Vincent's accounts. Vincent contemplated using this information in court but decided against it. Some weapons were better held in reserve. Meanwhile, Allison was recovering both physically and emotionally at Susan's place in Vermont. Vincent visited weekly, gradually helping her process the betrayal while ensuring she continued her education remotely. During one such visit, as they walked through Susan's apple orchard, Allison asked the question Vincent had been expecting. "Are you doing something beyond the trial? Something Mom and Peter don't see coming?" Vincent considered deflecting, but opted for a partial truth. "The law has limitations, Allison. Some forms of justice require alternative approaches." She nodded slowly. "I should be angry at you for that. I should tell you to let the courts handle it." She plucked an apple from a low-hanging branch. "But I keep remembering how they were willing to frame me their own daughter." "You don't need to know the details," Vincent said gently. "Some burdens don't need sharing." "Just promise me one thing," Allison said, meeting his eyes. "When it's done, when they've paid for what they did to us, we move forward. We don't let their poison keep spreading through our lives." Vincent squeezed her shoulder. "I promise, this ends with them." But as he drove back to Boston that evening, Vincent knew it was a promise he might not be able to keep. The betrayal had awakened something in him, a coldness, a capacity for calculated retribution that both disturbed and empowered him. Back in Boston, Vincent met with Raymond Vega himself. A dangerous move, but one that Vincent had calculated carefully. They met in a private room at an exclusive club Vincent belonged to. Vega was younger than Vincent had expected, barely 40, with a deceptively friendly smile and expensive taste in suits. "I respect your directness, Mr. Harlow," Vega said after Vincent explained the situation. "Most men in your position would stay far away from someone like me." "I'm not most men," Vincent replied. "Peter Calloway owes you $3 million, money he planned to repay using proceeds from my murder." Vega nodded. "An unpleasant business. I loan money. Yes, but I don't condone murder. Calloway's assets are frozen during the trial. He can't pay you." Vincent continued, "I'm prepared to settle his debt with a 20% premium in exchange for certain considerations." Vega's eyebrows rose. "You want to pay your would-be killer's debt?" "What?" Vincent's smile was razor thin. "Because then his debt transfers to me. And I want him to understand what that means." Understanding dawned in Vega's eyes. "You want him living in fear, even behind bars." "I want him to know that prison walls won't protect him from his obligations," Vincent corrected. "From either of us." Vega considered this, then extended his hand. "Mr. Harlow, I believe this is the beginning of a mutually beneficial arrangement. As they shook hands, Vincent felt the last of his hesitation dissolve. He had crossed a line. But for Allison, for justice, some lines needed crossing. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. The trial of Melanie Harlow and Peter Calloway became the most sensational case Boston had seen in decades. Vincent sat in the front row every day, his expression impassive as the prosecution methodically presented their case. The evidence was overwhelming. The poison in Vincent and Allison's systems, the detailed journal of the poisoning schedule, the offshore accounts, the research into life insurance policies, and most damningly, Leo Duval's testimony. Despite Frank's best efforts, Duval had taken the deal, though his testimony was limited after mysterious threats reached him in protective custody. Still, what he provided was enough to destroy any chance of reasonable doubt. On day 12 of the trial, Vincent was called to testify. As he took the stand, he noticed Melanie's attempt to catch his eye, her expression pleading. He looked through her as if she were invisible. "Mr. Harlow," the prosecutor began, "could you tell the court about when you first suspected something was wrong?" Vincent spoke clearly and calmly, describing Allison's strange behavior, the revelation, and the evidence they discovered. He detailed his symptoms, the security footage of Melanie adulterating his whiskey, and the financial records showing the purchases of thallium. During cross-examination, Melanie's attorney tried to suggest Vincent had fabricated evidence out of jealousy over her rekindled relationship with Peter. "Mr. Harlow, isn't it true that you've been known for ruthless business tactics? That you've destroyed competitors who stood in your way?" Vincent met the attorney's gaze steadily. "I've been aggressive in business, yes, but I've never poisoned anyone. The medical evidence shows thallium in both my and my daughter's bloodstream. Did my jealousy somehow manufacture that poison?" The courtroom erupted in murmurs, quickly silenced by the judge. After Vincent stepped down, Allison took the stand. Her testimony was devastating, emotional, but clear, describing how she discovered her mother's affair, the suspicious illness, finding the poison, and overhearing the conversations about increasing the dosage. Melanie wept openly during Allison's testimony. Peter stared at the table, unable to look at the daughter he had been willing to frame for harm. When the prosecution rested, the defense called Melanie to the stand. A risky move, but their only real option. She claimed the substances were natural supplements she'd been giving Vincent for his blood pressure, that she and Peter had rekindled their relationship but never plotted harm, and that Allison had misunderstood their conversations. Under cross-examination, the prosecutor was merciless. "Mrs. Harlow, how do you explain the thallium found in your husband's and daughter's systems? Is that a natural supplement too?" Melanie faltered. I don't know how they got there. And these journal entries in your handwriting, documenting increasing dosages and noting symptoms. Those are about supplements. They were taken out of context, she insisted, weakly. In your research into your husband's life insurance policy, just days before increasing the dosage, your communications with Mr. Duval, requesting something untraceable, the offshore accounts you set up to receive funds after. In your words, the job is done. By the end of cross-examination, Melanie was in tears, her credibility shattered. Peter's testimony was even worse. He attempted to blame everything on Melanie, claiming she had manipulated him with promises of wealth and rekindled love. The jury's disgust was palpable. On the final day of the trial, as closing arguments concluded, Vincent received a text from Frank. Package delivered to both targets. Effects beginning. Vincent allowed himself a small, cold smile. While the legal proceedings had been unfolding, his parallel plan had been advancing. Raymond Vegas's organization had made it clear to Peter that his prison term wouldn't erase his debt, and that debt was now owed to Vincent. Meanwhile, every client in Melanie's design business had received detailed packages about her trial, along with evidence of past ethical breaches that Vincent's investigators had uncovered. The jury deliberated for less than 5 hours before returning their verdict. Guilty on all counts for both defendants. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later, remanding both into custody. As the courtroom cleared, Vincent found himself face to face with Melanie, as officers prepared to take her away. "Vincent, please," she whispered desperately. "I know you have influence. Help me. For what we once had." Vincent looked at her directly for the first time since the trial began. "The legal phase is over, Melanie, but your punishment is just beginning." Fear flickered in her eyes as comprehension dawned. "What have you done?" Vincent smiled thinly. "Nothing compared to what you planned for me. The difference is, my vengeance isn't criminal. It's just comprehensive." As the officers led her away, Vincent turned to see Peter watching their exchange, his face ashen. Vincent nodded slightly to him, a silent confirmation that he, too, would understand the full extent of Vincent's retribution. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for a statement. Vincent stepped up to the microphones, Allison by his side. "Justice has been served today," he said simply. "My daughter and I are grateful to the prosecution team, the police, and the jury for seeing the truth. We now ask for privacy as we begin to heal from this betrayal." A reporter shouted over the others, "Mr. Harlow, will you ever be able to forgive your wife and Mr. Calloway?" Vincent's expression hardened momentarily before he composed himself. "Some betrayals go beyond forgiveness. That's all I have to say." As they walked to the waiting car, Allison squeezed his hand. "It's over, Dad." Vincent nodded, not contradicting her. For Allison, it was over. For Melanie and Peter, the true reckoning was just beginning. 2 weeks after the verdict, Melanie and Peter received their sentences, 25 years each for attempted murder, conspiracy, and related charges. The judge had been particularly harsh, citing the calculated nature of the crime and the betrayal of family bonds. Vincent attended the sentencing alone, having convinced Allison to return to her studies. She had been accepted to complete her degree through a special program at the University of Florence, an opportunity to heal away from the media circus that continued to surround the case. As Vincent left the courthouse, Benjamin fell into step beside him. "The civil suits are proceeding as planned. We'll take everything they have left." Vincent nodded. The criminal case had been just one facet of his response. The civil litigation would ensure that whatever assets remained to either Melanie or Peter would be stripped away through judgments and legal fees. "What about the son?" Benjamin asked quietly. Vincent had been wrestling with this question for weeks. Melanie's secret child, now a 23-year-old named Kyle Morris, had been receiving regular payments from her for years, money that ultimately came from Vincent. A meeting, Vincent decided. He may be as much a victim in this as Allison. 3 days later, Vincent sat across from Kyle in a private room at his office building. The young man looked nothing like Melanie, tall, broad-shouldered, with sandy hair and a wary expression. "I appreciate you coming," Vincent began. "I imagine this is awkward." Kyle shifted uncomfortably. "I'm still processing that my birth mother tried to murder her husband. Not exactly what I expected when I tracked her down 3 years ago." "Did you know about her relationship with Peter Calloway?" Vincent asked. Kyle nodded reluctantly. "She told me they were meant to be together, but that you were an obstacle. She never mentioned murder, though." He looked up, his expression troubled. "I swear I didn't know." Vincent studied him. "The money she sent you. Did you know where it came from?" "She said it was from her design business," Kyle admitted. "I needed it for medical school. I have a congenital heart condition, and the treatments are expensive." Vincent made a decision. "I'm not holding you responsible for her actions, Kyle. The payments will stop as her assets are now frozen, but I'm establishing a medical trust for your treatments. No strings attached." Kyle looked stunned. "Why would you do that? I'm nothing to you." "Because you're another victim of her deception," Vincent replied simply. "And I don't punish the innocent." The meeting with Kyle reinforced Vincent's conviction that his vengeance should be precisely targeted. The innocent, like Kyle and other family members, would be spared. But for those directly involved in the betrayal, there would be no mercy. That evening, Vincent received 2 reports. The first, from Frank, detailed how his arrangements with Raymond Vega were playing out. Peter had been approached in prison by one of Vega's associates, who made it clear that his $3 million debt had been purchased by Vincent. The message was simple: Vincent now owned him, and prison wouldn't protect him from that obligation. The second report came from a private investigator who had been monitoring the fallout of the information packets sent to Melanie's clients and industry contacts. Her professional reputation was in tatters. Every major design association had revoked her credentials, and former clients were distancing themselves publicly. The prestigious Mills family had given a damning interview about how they had narrowly avoided working with that dreadful poisoner. Vincent read both reports with cold satisfaction. The legal system had taken their freedom. He was taking everything else. Meanwhile, Allison was thriving in Florence, video calling Vincent weekly with updates on her studies and her healing process. She seemed lighter, more like her old self, though Vincent noted a new wariness in her eyes, the inevitable result of such profound betrayal. During one call, she asked about the civil litigation. Vincent provided a sanitized version, omitting the darker aspects of his vengeance. "Dad, promise me something," Allison said, her expression serious. "When the legal stuff is done, let it be done. Don't let them take more from us than they already have." Vincent nodded, though he knew he was lying to her. "Of course, sweetheart. This will all be behind us soon." After the call, Vincent poured himself a whiskey from a new decanter in a new study in a new home. He had sold the Beacon Hill townhouse, unable to continue living in a space so tainted by betrayal. His phone rang. Detective Winters. "Mr. Harlow, I thought you should know. Peter Calloway was attacked in prison yesterday. He'll survive, but he's been moved to the infirmary." Vincent feigned concern. "That's terrible. Is there any indication who was responsible?" "Nothing concrete," Winters replied, a note of suspicion in her voice. "Though there are rumors it's connected to some outside debt." "Prison can be dangerous," Vincent remarked neutrally, "especially for someone who betrays those closest to him." After they hung up, Vincent received a text from an unknown number. "First payment collected. More to follow. RV." Vincent deleted the message. Raymond Vega was proving to be a useful associate, ensuring Peter understood that his 25-year sentence wouldn't protect him from Vincent's reach. As for Melanie, her first month in prison had been equally challenging. Female inmates had their own code, and harming one's child placed her at the bottom of the hierarchy. Melanie, once respected and admired in society, now faced daily isolation and scorn, even threats, from the other inmates. The information about her willingness to frame Allison had spread quickly through the prison grapevine, ensuring she found no allies. Vincent had made sure of that, using connections to seed the information among influential inmates. Melanie's prison experience would be a daily reminder of her betrayal, isolated, ostracized, and vulnerable. This was Vincent's true vengeance, not just the loss of freedom, but the systematic destruction of everything they valued. For Peter, it was the constant fear of what debt collection might entail within prison walls. For Melanie, it was the complete erasure of her professional identity and social standing. Vincent looked at their wedding photo, still sitting on his desk. Tomorrow, he would put it away. But tonight, he wanted to remember what they had once been, and what they had chosen to destroy through their betrayal. His phone buzzed with another text, this one from Benjamin. "Leo Duval has filed an appeal on his cooperation agreement. Claims he was coerced into testifying." Vincent smiled grimly. Frank's work again. The chemist who had supplied the poison was now trying to recant his testimony, a pointless gesture that would only damage his own credibility, while changing nothing about Melanie and Peter's convictions. The machine of vengeance was running smoothly, requiring little direct input from Vincent now. Like any well-designed system, it had become self-sustaining. Vincent raised his glass in a mock toast to the wedding photo. "You should have remembered one thing, Melanie. I never forgive betrayal. Never." 6 months after the sentencing, Vincent sat across from Raymond Vega at their now regular monthly meeting. These meetings, held in the private room of an exclusive restaurant Vincent owned, had evolved from a simple business arrangement into something more complex. "Calloway is breaking," Vega reported, slicing into his steak. "The last payment collection left him begging to speak with you directly." Vincent sipped his wine. "Not yet. Let him understand the full weight of his debt first." The payments were not financial. Peter had no money left after the civil judgments. Instead, they came in the form of fear, isolation, and strategic reminders of Vincent's reach. Small things. His commissary account emptied the day before he could use it. The one guard who had shown him kindness suddenly transferred. Contraband planted in his cell just before a search. Vega studied Vincent with newfound respect. "You know, when we started this arrangement, I thought you were just another rich guy playing at revenge. I was wrong." "How so?" Vincent asked. "Most men in your position would have been satisfied with the prison sentences," Vega said. "You understand that true vengeance requires sustainability." Vincent nodded slightly. "They tried to take everything from me, my life, my daughter, my legacy. Their punishment should reflect that ambition." As their meal concluded, Vega handed Vincent a sealed envelope. "Calloway wrote this, asked me to deliver it. I haven't read it." Vincent tucked the envelope into his jacket without opening it. "Anything else?" "Your ex-wife has requested a transfer to another facility. Claims she fears for her safety." Vega's smile was cold. "Request denied, of course. The warden is an old friend." After Vega departed, Vincent finally opened the envelope. Peter's letter was desperate, claiming he had been manipulated by Melanie, begging for mercy, offering information about other crimes Melanie had allegedly committed, even suggesting he could help Vincent recover hidden assets. Vincent read it twice before feeding it into the shredder beside his desk. No response would be more telling than any words he could offer. Meanwhile, Allison had completed her degree in Florence and had been accepted to a prestigious graduate program in London. During her brief visit home between programs, Vincent was struck by how much she had grown. Not just academically, but emotionally. "I've been talking to a therapist," she told him over dinner at his new penthouse. "About Mom, about everything." Vincent nodded encouragingly. "That's good. Professional help is important after trauma." "She thinks I should consider visiting Mom," Allison said carefully, watching for his reaction. Not for forgiveness, but for closure. Vincent kept his expression neutral despite the surge of anger he felt. "Do you want to?" Allison pushed her food around her plate. "I don't know. Part of me needs to ask her why. Why she was willing to hurt me, to frame me." She looked up. "What do you think?" Vincent chose his words carefully. "Closure is personal." "Allison, if seeing her would help you heal, I support that. But don't expect satisfying answers. People like your mother rarely have the capacity for genuine accountability." "Have you found closure?" she asked. Vincent offered a measured smile. "I'm getting there. The legal system provided justice, and time is doing the rest." It was a carefully crafted lie. Vincent had no interest in closure or healing from the betrayal. His retribution was ongoing, a living thing that he nurtured daily. But Allison needed to believe he was moving forward. Her own recovery depended on it. After Allison departed for London, Vincent received word that Melanie had attempted suicide in prison. She had survived but was under psychiatric observation. The news left him unmoved. Her despair was simply another facet of his vengeance. Benjamin called later that week with updates on the civil litigation. The appeals court has denied their last motion. The financial judgment stands. They're officially destitute. "And the hidden accounts?" Vincent asked. "Found and seized," Benjamin confirmed. "Every last penny. Even the account she was using to send money to her son." Vincent nodded. "Make sure the medical trust for Kyle continues. He shouldn't suffer for his mother's crimes." It was another small act of justice, measured precisely where it belonged, and nowhere else. The following week, Vincent received another unexpected communication. A call from Peter's ex-wife, Donna, Allison's biological mother. They had met only a handful of times over the years, as she had moved to California shortly after her divorce from Peter. "I don't know if I should be calling you," she began hesitantly, "but I felt I needed to go on." Vincent encouraged, curious. "Peter contacted me from prison," she explained. "He wanted me to reach out to you to plead his case. He said you're making his life hell in there beyond the sentence." Vincent remained silent, neither confirming nor denying. "I told him I wouldn't do it," Donna continued. "After what he tried to do to Allison, my daughter, he deserves whatever he gets." Her voice hardened. "I just wanted you to know that not everyone is falling for his victim act." "I appreciate that," Vincent said simply. "How is she?" Donna asked, her voice softening. "Allison." Vincent provided a brief update on Allison's studies and recovery, careful not to share too many personal details. After the call ended, Vincent reflected on how extensive the collateral damage had been. Lives touched and altered by Melanie and Peter's betrayal. Yet his vengeance remained precisely targeted, touching only those directly responsible. That evening, Vincent received a call from the prison warden, informing him that Peter had been hospitalized after another attack. This one was more severe. He had survived, but would require surgery. Vincent expressed appropriate concern while feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. The third payment had been collected. Later that night, he called Frank. "It's time for the next phase." Frank understood immediately. "The information release." "Yes," Vincent confirmed. "Everything we have on both of them. Release it to the media tomorrow." The next morning, major news outlets broke stories containing leaked prison correspondence between Melanie and Peter, revealing not just their murder plot, but other disturbing details. Previous victims they had manipulated, financial crimes they had committed, and perhaps most damagingly, their explicit discussions about framing Allison. The public, which had already condemned them, now viewed them with renewed disgust. Any remaining sympathy evaporated as their true characters were laid bare. Vincent watched the coverage dispassionately. The legal system had taken their freedom. His financial maneuvers had taken their wealth. This information release was taking their last asset, any claim to misunderstood motives or redemptive qualities. That night, Vincent received a text from Detective Winters. "Interesting timing on those leaks. I don't suppose you know anything about that." Vincent replied simply, "Justice takes many forms, Detective." Her response came quickly, "Just be careful. Vengeance has a way of consuming those who seek it." Vincent stared at her message for a long moment before deleting it. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps his pursuit of retribution was changing him. But he had made his choices, and he would see them through to the end. But he had made his choice the moment he learned of their betrayal. Some transgressions could not be forgiven. Some debts could only be paid in full. 1 year to the day after the verdict, Vincent sat alone in his office, reviewing the latest reports. Melanie remained in psychiatric care within the prison system, having suffered a complete breakdown following the media release of her correspondence. Peter had survived his injuries, but was now confined to a wheelchair. The attack had damaged his spine. Vincent felt no satisfaction from these developments, only a cold sense of completion. The machinery of vengeance he had set in motion was functioning precisely as designed. His phone rang. Allison, calling from London. "Dad, have you seen the news?" she asked without preamble. Vincent switched to speaker and pulled up a news site. The headline made even his cold heart pause. "Poisoner's accomplice dead. Peter Calloway found hanged in prison cell." "I just saw it," he said neutrally. "They're saying suicide," Allison continued, her voice shaking slightly. "But there are questions about how he could have done it while under supervision after his injuries." Vincent remained silent. This hadn't been part of his plan, at least not directly. Raymond Vega had been explicit that the payments would be painful, but not fatal. "Dad," Allison prompted when he didn't respond. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he assured her, "just processing the news. I know I should feel something." Allison admitted quietly, "He was my biological father, but I just feel empty." "That's a natural response to complicated grief," Vincent replied, recalling phrases from his own mandatory therapy sessions after the trial. After they hung up, Vincent immediately called Vega. "This wasn't authorized," Vincent said without greeting when Vega answered. "Not by me," Vega replied calmly. The word is he genuinely took his own way out, couldn't face another day knowing what was coming. Vincent considered this. Fear had been the primary currency of Peter's punishment. Fear of what might happen next, of when the next payment would be collected. Perhaps that fear had finally broken him. What about the questions regarding how he could have done it given his condition? Prison officials looking to cover their oversight, Vega said dismissively. He found a way because he was desperate enough. After ending the call, Vincent sat in silence for a long time. Peter's death should have felt like victory, the ultimate culmination of his vengeance. Instead, it left him feeling strangely hollow. His phone buzzed with a text from Benjamin. "Melanie is requesting compassionate release for the funeral." Denied, of course. "Should we issue a statement?" Vincent typed back, "No statement. Let the matter close without further comment." The following day, Detective Winters appeared at his office unannounced. "Mr. Harlow," she said, declining his offer to sit, "I think we need to talk about Peter Calloway's death." Vincent met her gaze steadily. A tragic end to a tragic story. "Convenient timing," she observed. 1 year to the day after the verdict. "Symbolic dates can be powerful triggers for those contemplating suicide," Vincent replied. Winters studied him. "You know, I've spent 20 years dealing with the worst of humanity. I understand the desire for vengeance. I even understand why you wouldn't be satisfied with the legal outcome. Are you accusing me of something, Detective?" She shook her head. "I have no evidence. Just a career's worth of instinct telling me there's more to this story than a simple prison suicide." "Perhaps your instincts are mistaken this time," Vincent suggested. "Perhaps," she conceded. "Or perhaps we're both aware that justice and legality aren't always perfectly aligned." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Just so you know, I've recommended closing the investigation into Calloway's death. Ruled a suicide, case closed." After she left, Vincent considered her words carefully. She knew, or at least strongly suspected, his involvement, but had chosen to let it end. Perhaps she too believed some betrayals deserve more than legal punishment. That evening, Vincent visited the cemetery where his parents were buried, seeking some connection to the person he had been before the betrayal had reshaped him. As he placed flowers on their graves, he sensed someone approaching. "I thought I might find you here," said a familiar voice. Vincent turned to see Allison, who should have been in London. "What are you doing back?" "I needed to be home," she said simply, embracing him. "And I was worried about you." Vincent frowned. "Why would you be worried?" "Because I know you, Dad," she replied, her eyes meeting his directly. "I know what you're capable of when someone hurts the people you care about." Vincent felt a chill. How much did she know? How much had she guessed? "Peter's death," she began. "Was his own choice," Vincent interjected firmly. Allison studied him for a long moment. "Maybe. But what came before? The attacks in prison, the leaked correspondence, his complete financial ruin. Those weren't coincidences, were they?" Vincent remained silent, neither confirming nor denying. "I'm not judging you," she continued, surprisingly. "They tried to hurt you. They were willing to hurt me as collateral damage. They deserved punishment." "Then why are we having this conversation?" Vincent asked quietly. "Because I need to know if it's over," Allison said, her voice breaking slightly. "With Peter gone and Mom broken in psychiatric care, is your vengeance complete? Can we finally move forward?" Vincent considered her question carefully. Was it over? Had his thirst for retribution been satisfied? "Yes," he said finally. "It's over." Allison's relief was palpable. "Good, because I refuse to let them take anything more from us. They've already stolen enough." As they walked back to their cars, Allison mentioned she would be staying in Boston for a week before returning to London. Vincent found comfort in her presence, grateful that through everything, the bond between them had endured. "I'm planning to visit Mom tomorrow," she said cautiously. "Not for her, for me. I need to see her, to understand if possible, to close that chapter." Vincent nodded. "If that's what you need for healing, I support it." "Will you ever see her again?" Allison asked. Vincent's response was immediate and final. "No. Some betrayals can't be faced again, even from behind prison glass." The next day, while Allison visited Melanie, Vincent received an unexpected visitor at his office. Kyle Morris, Melanie's secret son. "I wanted to thank you," Kyle said awkwardly. "The medical trust, it's made continuing my treatment possible." Vincent gestured for him to sit. "How are your studies progressing?" "I'll finish medical school next year," Kyle replied. "Cardiology, ironically enough, given my own heart condition." They spoke for a while about Kyle's studies and future plans. As he was leaving, Kyle paused. "I visited her once after the arrest," he admitted. "She didn't even ask about my health, just wanted to know if I could help her somehow." He shook his head. "Some people aren't capable of thinking beyond themselves, are they?" "No," Vincent agreed. "They're not." After Kyle left, Vincent received a text from Allison. "It's done. She's not even the same person anymore. I feel nothing but pity." Vincent closed his eyes briefly. Melanie had not just lost her freedom and reputation. She had lost herself. The systematic destruction of everything she valued had broken her completely. His vengeance was indeed complete. That evening, Vincent hosted a small dinner at his penthouse, just Allison, Susan, and Benjamin. As they enjoyed the meal, Vincent found himself watching Allison, seeing traces of the happy, confident young woman she had been before the betrayal. "I've decided to finish my graduate program, then come back to Boston," she announced over dessert. "Maybe join your company, if the offer still stands." Vincent smiled genuinely. "It always stands. The Harlow name will be yours to carry forward someday." Later, after the others had left, Vincent stood on his balcony, overlooking the Boston skyline. Allison joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders against the evening chill. "Are you really okay, Dad?" she asked softly. Vincent considered the question carefully. The cold flame of vengeance that had sustained him for the past year had burned out. Leaving. What? Not peace exactly. Not forgiveness. Never that. Perhaps just the quiet certainty that justice, in its fullest sense, had been served. "I'm okay," he said finally. "Different, but okay." Allison nodded, understanding. "They changed us, but they didn't destroy us." "No," Vincent agreed, putting his arm around her shoulders. "They didn't." Later that night, alone in his study, Vincent opened his safe and removed a final envelope. Contingency plans for if Melanie ever managed early release, or if Peter had somehow escaped justice. He studied the documents for a moment, then set them aside. No longer necessary, their purpose fulfilled. He fed the papers slowly into the shredder, watching as the last physical evidence of his vengeance was reduced to confetti. His phone buzzed with a final text from Raymond Vega. "Accounts settled in full. Business concluded." Vincent typed a simple reply. "Confirmed." As he poured himself a whiskey, Vincent reflected on how completely he had destroyed those who betrayed him. Peter was dead. Melanie was a broken shell. Their reputations, finances, and futures had been systematically dismantled. Vincent felt no regret, no second thoughts about the ruthlessness of his response. In his world, betrayal was unforgivable, especially betrayal that threatened family. He raised his glass in a final, silent toast, not to victory or vengeance, but to a simple truth he had lived by throughout his life. Actions had consequences. Betrayal had a price, and Vincent Harlow always collected his debts in full.